Alrighty. We're gonna make this one real snappy because I gotta be up at like 5 a.m. tomorrow. Basically, number one, made great progress on the Xbox thing. The other day I was streaming where I kept putting data onto hard drives and kept using the Fat Explorer or Fat X Explorer. Basically, it's a utility for dealing with the Xbox memory cards and has recently been updated in a beta version to handle original Xbox hard drives. And so, in general, there is a little process to get a hard drive prepared before you can put it in an Xbox. And if you want to replace an existing hard drive with a larger one, there's a process there too. And what was happening was I was putting the files for the C drive and E drive down, which is basically what every Xbox hard drive needs, and it wasn't working. But then when I instead downloaded basically an auto installer known as Rocky 5, I should just go and find that right now. This thing right over here. Scrolled down, went to the download page, and I was able to basically download this zip file here, which contained everything I needed, to build a hard drive from scratch. And what it had was in that folder a installation folder, almost like having an installation file on Windows or something. And we could probably see that somewhere here or here. Not here. Or we could just open up the zip file, probably. Yeah, we could do that. In fact, let's just go ahead and open that. So in that, we got a C drive folder, and we have all of these files here. And what you basically do is you have these in a C drive on a newly prepared Xbox hard drive. One that has, been, paired with your Xbox's EEPROM code, because every Xbox motherboard either has a unique code, unless you've nulled the code, unless you blanked the code out. If you have a blank code, great. You still got to lock the drive with the blank code. And as long as you have these files and a hard drive that is, locked with a matching lock code to your Xbox, when you turn it on, you'll get an installation utility. And I ran this on a live stream yesterday. I think it was my last previous live stream, where you turn on the Xbox, it says press A to begin. You press A on your gamepad, it runs an installation tool, and when everything is said and done, you have like a menu akin to this, but nothing like it, because this menu is the Elgato is displaying that a little. There we go. Yeah, just like that, and this one's pretty sweet here. This is actually what I got when I bought it on eBay, because at one point I needed to get a replacement unit that was in working order. And this one was pretty pimped out. Like, I'm not even sure how the guy did it. I gotta look into it. It might be using Kodi or XBMC to do it. Either way, I'll figure it out like on Wednesday. I'm not too worried about it. I'm not too worried about it right now. In the meantime, I did get one of these 600 gig hard drives loaded with what I needed in order to do what I wanted, right? So I have a 640 and a 640, and the menu was a bit more lackluster. Granted, I was merely using what came with these files that we see here. Wrong button. These files we see right over here. The menu is pretty lackluster, but it was still something. It was just a really rudimentary looking menu, and I figured Wednesday I'll do some research, maybe even while I'm at work if I have a downtime, do a little investigating. But by Wednesday, I'm sure I can sit down with this again, and Wednesday, Thursday, whatever, because I do want to have, like, by Thursday, just have it all ready to go. And I mean, if I really want to rush it, it's already good to go. So what I did last night when I went out was I fired up an FTP download from the Xbox that has, the Xbox we just saw on screen with all of these games. And I basically downloaded everything via FTP to this computer so that I can then dump it to this hard drive over here. And I was able to verify triumphantly that we do have a 600 gigabyte volume on here now. So when I turn on the Xbox and I put games on it, I'll have like 400 gigabytes to spare on top of what is being used up already. And the beautiful thing, and Bone, what is up, Bone? It's good to see you. I see you right there in the chat. I don't want to say, I don't want to miss you. I'm just glad you're here. And so because of that good news, I will be able to take a stack of game discs that I got out of the e-waste recycling heap when I was working at Best Buy, and games that I've had accumulated over the years, and find out what games are not in that list. Whoops, wrong list. Find out what games are not in this list. And once I know that, I can then go ahead and, just separate the discs that I need in order to rip them in. And there's actually a little utility, because there's two ways to rip game discs. I think there's an application called Cracktion, it's a weird name like that lets you do it with a PC. But years ago, I always had a hard time copying Xbox game discs on my computer. It was always just easier to use DVD to Xbox, rip it to the hard drive from the Xbox's built-in DVD drive, even though it was more time consuming. In the end, it worked every time, so that was easy. And once the game was in the folder on the Xbox hard drive, I was able to do what I wanted with it, just like what I did here when I put it in these, had it in these folders, copied it to my C drive. So now I have everything that was on his Xbox neatly backed up right over here. Let's see how big it is. Let's see how much storage it is. And what's up, Mr. Bone? I hope all is well. I hope you're having a great evening. Where'd I put this thing? Was that it? Yeah, that was it. So, we're going to count up the tally, 25. It's going to count for a while. Now, do I want to play a game? Should I play a game before I depart? Well, actually, what was my priority? I was thinking about doing one of three things. Firing up the file transfer now. The only caveat with that is, I don't really want to leave this computer on when I go to bed, And based on the numbers here, by the numbers, I don't think we're going to be copying like 200 gigs in 5 minutes, There's probably about 200 gigs there, because this Xbox had actually, now I remember, it had a 250 gigabyte hard drive and no free space. In fact, there's like one odd game laying around in another folder somewhere, because I took the game off the hard drive to free up memory, because I was not comfortable having like half a megabyte of free space on any volume. I'm just like, this is like asking for problems, So yeah, now to talk to an Xbox hard drive here, when I'm ready to move files, or if I wait till I'm at work tomorrow, I would simply, turn this on before I leave the house. Let the puppy spin up while it's sitting on this silicone mat. Hopefully it's grounded in some way. I mean, there's a 3-prong power supply, so hopefully it is grounded. We plug it into my USB hub. Yeah, 215 gigs. So, we can do an experiment. I'm going to do an experiment right now. I'm going to just mount the drive and see how long it might take to get data onto it. So, of course, with all Xbox hard drives, we must first unlock it using the lock code, even though the lock code is all zeros. And years ago, it wasn't like that. Years ago, you would actually have to have a unique lock code for every Xbox you dealt with, unless you had a mod chip. And I mean, the beauty of a soft mod is that you don't need a mod chip. So it was like, if you want to be an elitist and get a mod chip, power to you. It's cool. But you didn't have to. But, I mean, generally speaking, I was bad at soldering back then. I was not comfortable. These days, as soon as I find a mod chip that I misplaced, I'm going to pick an Xbox and put it in one of the two. I think I got 3. I got 2 definitely working. I may be able to bring a third one up and running. And if that's the case, then I should be in really good shape, And then I could pick like one of 3 basically to do the mod chip installation on. Because, I'm comfortable doing it now, but I still don't want to risk. If I only had one, I wouldn't want to risk it. So I want to have at least 2. And I do have 2 right now, 2 that are working, but definitely need to do some customization to get the menu to look good like this. And this is not a 360. This is an original OG Xbox right here. We got like, that's what the library is right here. It's the original Xbox games. I have it in widescreen because, of course, I mean, if you have a high def TV, why not? You could buy, the original component cables for the Xbox, which depending on which ones you bought, it could be hit or miss. Sometimes with component cables, you'd get like weird interference on the line. I'm using a Xbox to HDMI adapter that is really good. I should probably put a link out so people can see it and, You know, if anybody needs one, definitely if someone asks in the, you know, chat or comments, I'll get the link. But yeah, this like does like a clean HDMI signal, no bullshit. You know, it's taking that component signal, it's running it through a converter that doesn't even require additional power. You know, because a lot of these adapters will have a USB power connection on them, which I find very annoying. Oh yeah, so this controller is the Logitech Precision Cordless Gamepad, or whatever the F it's called. Precision Wireless Gamepad, and this was what they were selling in like 05, 06, 07, somewhere around that ballpark time. Yeah, you know, got like little trigger buttons. I think I bought one of these, my first one of these in like 05. And yeah, it's a pretty slick gamepad. I mean, especially for the times, you know, compared to that first Xbox gamepad that looked like a steering wheel, which I mean, still was an interesting gamepad. I've played many nights of Halo on the big, you know, original Xbox gamepad. I have at least one of them laying around downstairs I should bring up. And then we have, what do you call it? The Xbox Type S controller. Those were much more sane. I don't know what the hell Microsoft was thinking with the big gamepad. My guess is maybe there's some ergonomic angle to it, because it was pretty ergonomic despite how ugly it looked. And definitely branding. They definitely wanted that big jewel in the middle that said Xbox. They were definitely making a statement saying like, we're here now. Like they dropped into the console space like a nuke. You know what I mean? They were like really loud about their statement with the big box and the big green Xbox logo and the big logo on the gamepad. Oh yeah, and that was pretty sweet. I forgot you could rip music to the OG Xbox. I remember, you know, 360 people would plug their iPods in and play music while playing various games. So with Xbox, I didn't even know you could do that. I didn't know you could rip music from a CD and listen to it during a game. That's pretty sweet. You know, I think like I vaguely have some recollection of no, that was GTA 3 for PC. I used to put MP3s in a folder, and yeah, but I had no idea you could do that. I don't know why I didn't know that. I feel old-fashioned. I feel like a boomer for not knowing that. So how many games did I have? Yeah, I have 97 games. My old one had 70, but if I could have anything more than 97, that would be sweet. We also have some homebrew on this puppy here. Whoops, wrong button. We also have some 90s homebrew. I mean, you know, we got like 90s PC games. We got, for example, Descent. You know, if anybody remembers this was like a 3D game, basically a 3D shooter, so to speak. And we also got Duke Nukem 3D. We got Wolfenstein in there. We got, I don't know what the heck this is, Super Mario War. Definitely does not look like an official title. SOD1, SOD2. I don't know if there's any description here. It looks like Wolfenstein to me. Star Control. Well, I like starships and I like stars being able to control them. Yo, Burnout 3 was really good. I was a happy camper for a long time. Before I modded my first Xbox, I had Project Gotham Racing for like a while. And that was an okay game, you know. It was something. Let's see. Let's take a look at Descent. It's been a long time. Let's see. I gotta switch my input on my monitor, or else I will be dealing with like a second of lag. Whoa. I'm getting ADD here. I almost forgot. I gotta check something else. I did say I was gonna check something else relating to modding the thing. Oh my goodness. That's gonna take a minute to switch inputs on this monitor. Alright. Guess I have to wait for it. I'll leave that up on screen in the meantime. I'll even put the audio on some low volume level. Maybe there's gonna be like some animation sequence or something. Let me see if I can copy paste this. Yeah, copy. Go to my computer screen. Oh, dude, yo, so Crimson Skies, man. The other day, I was exploring that. I was like trying to see if I could play on an emulator on my. Oh wait, that's funny. Yeah, that won't work. Yeah, so the FTP connection between me and the Xbox doesn't work when you open up a game, which makes sense. It shouldn't work, you know. But yo, Crimson Skies, a few weeks ago, I went to play that on whatchamacallit, my Steam Deck, yeah. And it worked, you know, it was playing really nicely, actually. It was playing real smooth and everything. And then I went to use the turbo boost, you know, when you have the nitrous oxide. and the game lagged like crazy. I was getting like 2 frames, 4 frames a second. I went to do like an Immelman or a barrel roll, and it did the same thing. Every time you did any maneuver like that, it would do the 4 frames a second. I'm like, very rapidly discovered this game was unplayable, at least on an emulator on a Steam Deck. Maybe it plays better on a PC, but it just reaffirmed my reasoning for maintaining a you know, real Xbox. You know, beyond that, what else did we have? We had what's the other game there? Megasol, like you mentioned. Megasol was one of my first Xbox games too. One of the first I bought after Project Gotham, and that was like one I really tremendously enjoyed. And it was an extra bonus to find out that that was the title I needed in order to do my first soft mod. You know, like that was like the one with the exploit where you get a special memory card save, and you basically copy it from the memory card to the, you know, your internal hard drive. You open up Mechasol. On the menu for Mechasol, instead of saying the name of your save game, one of the save title games will be Run Linux. You click Run Linux, the screen goes black, gives you some console output like a command line, and then you're kicked into like a little menu, basically like a homebrew menu where you can then have your way with the Xbox. And so Mechasol contributed in 2 ways to Xbox history. But as a game, yo, I mean, that nuclear explosion, you know, whenever you blew up a mech and it made that nuclear explosion, that was freaking cool. Do I have a game already? Jet Set Radio. I played that recently. That was an interesting game. Panzer Dragoon. I don't think I ever played that one, but if it's not in the list I have now, I better write that down. I'm not even kidding. I really believe that I should write that down because, yeah, I'm putting out my post-it notes real quick. Xbox game list. Because if I don't, you know, if I have them physically, but they're not on this Xbox, I'll make sure I rip them. And if I don't have them, I'll make sure I obtain them by any means possible. There we go. I put it on my list. Thanks, Bone. Whoops, I gotta hit the button here again. Now, let's take a look quick. Whoa. I do not want to abort my game. Let's see, I'm gonna guess that's like a little aperture thingy. Oh, speaking of an aperture, I do have to video encoding. I actually have a topic about video encoding here. Okay, that is not a destructible door. I remember being so wowed at how... Oh, God. I remember thinking this was the coolest thing when I was a kid on my Pentium 1. But also now noticing how awkward it is to maneuver. Like, I don't even know how to do a spin. Whoa. Okay. I'm still figuring it out, buddy. This is basically like playing Forsaken 64. Except I don't actually know how to play it. Whoops. But hey, it moves buttery smooth. I mean, that's like a clean 60 frames a second right there. Can't go wrong with that, right? That's like quality gaming right there. Alright, let's see if I can just get these buttons figured out. Whoa. Okay, that's seeing the back. I think I just deployed some mines, or I encountered some mines, maybe. Are those mines? I'm not gonna play this one for long. I'm just exploring it. Okay, that's how I roll. Okay, good. I figured out how to do these up and down, translate up and down maneuver. That's good. I need to know that. I want to hit this guy. Forsaken 64. Wait. Oh, yeah. That was the game. I'm sorry. I just said that. I was like, what game is that? But yeah, man, that game was fire. I mean, really. I picked it up on GOG Games like a year and a half ago or so. And basically the same game, you know, maybe slightly better. Oh god, why did I just went up to a mine like that was a collectible. That is a collectible though. But yeah, similar concept. Forsaken, I think, came out after this, and of course, you know, had that cool post-apocalyptic theme where you gotta salvage things from a messed up, barren wasteland of a planet Earth. Word, Mr. Bone. You have a good night. It was good seeing you. Thank you for dropping by, and you have a good night. I gotta get back to work here. Oh, my own. All right, no, after I blow this guy up. You first. You first. Oh. You first, Mr. Roboto. You must go. Do not pass. You go. Oh man, I gotta say, this controller scheme feels a little awkward. Like, I'm probably gonna make changes to these settings at some point, because it's really disjointed. It's like somebody just tried their best to map a keyboard game to a gamepad, and they did all right, but it's like suboptimal. All right. Then when we want to exit, I think we can just exit to the menu with these homebrew titles. So yeah, I mean, that works, you know, I mean, it works. Now we must move on to the next phase of this video. And so this will leave this guy running here, and I will switch up to my first HDMI input, and we will reconnect to the FTP. We don't need to be connected to this anymore, do we? So we will close that. But what we do need to do is we need to go to that backup folder. We need to take this hard drive that I've mounted. Okay, blank screen, that's pretty normal. There we are. And what we are going to do is take this awkward window, shuffle it here. We've already unlocked the disk, so all we got to do is remount it. So we hit load device. We pick the F drive. Yeah. And then we can go back to my backup folder, go to my F drive. We can even create a games folder so we don't have to copy the whole thing. And we'll pick one game. We'll pick like Alien Hominid. All right, so we get about, it's not bad actually, you know, we get about, it's not great, but it's not bad. I get better speeds on my network, you know, but it's about 300 megabits a second or 30 megabytes a second. It's about little less than 1/3 the speed I would get if I was going over a gigabit line. And so this would take way less than 5 hours to transfer. This is something I would probably fire up after getting home from work. I wouldn't do this while I'm at work because I'm not really crazy about leaving external hard drives plugged in. You know, not crazy about leaving external hard drives plugged in while I'm at work for 12 hours. That just doesn't seem like a good idea. Not internal hard drives sitting all loose like this. I mean, just what I need is like a mouse or something to come into the house and like chew up the wire or something, get electrocuted and cause a fire. Don't really need that. I mean, I'm being paranoid, but yeah, I don't want that to happen. So at least we know this is available. And we'll leave that there for now. Okay, we'll close that out. Disconnect it. Now we're going to segue into the next topic. But yeah, I will be checking back about this triumphant success. I will be posting a post to Reddit asking other experts on this matter for some input because I have some, you know, minor concerns that I think they can address. Minor concerns, minor questions, you know? So now we're going to segue to this topic. What we're looking at here is I have the, there was a science fiction television series called Lex during the late 90s, early 2000s, around that time, probably more early 2000. It was like I think it was in the pre-high def age or just on the, you know, cusp of it. And it was just the weirdest science fiction show ever. Like, it was weird. It was just unique. And it was a good show. It wasn't bad. Like, I don't think it was bad. I enjoyed it tremendously. And so what I have here is, what happened was I wanted to buy on DVD. I've downloaded a bootleg and the quality was atrocious. It was just terrible quality between the video encoding quality and the source material. It was awful. So I buy the DVD box set, but there was 3 versions, and the best copies were $300. The low quality copy version was about $40, a little less maybe. So I bought the $40 DVD box set on eBay because I was willing to gamble $40 before committing $300. And at the time, I knew less about, methods of video encoding than I do now. But what I ended up with was, for example, let's see, this episode here was in black and white, so we're going to do this episode here. Now, you might see some flickering or image artifacting and stuff here. So what I do is I press the letter D to turn off deinterlacing. Deinterlacing is basically what takes away the ugly horizontal lines known as combing artifacts. And so right here, when things move, you're going to see these horizontal lines. And when something fades out or moves horizontally, we'll also be able to see that. So what I'm going to do is freeze frame it at key points to reveal those horizontal lines. And so unless the YouTube video encoders are blurring the lines, we should see some of them. Okay, that looks good. There we go, perfect. This is a good example of the deinterlacing, or not the lack thereof. So you get these horizontal lines. Now, most DVD players will deal with these. They'll filter them in order to deal with them. If you play these back on an old standard definition TV without a deinterlacing filter, it works fine because the old TVs, that are basically designed to, basically that's why we get these. We get these because of the standards utilized on old television technology. And so, when you go digital, you see these lines, whereas on an old phosphorescent display, you do not see these lines. And so if we turn on the filter, they go away, and now we get, proper diagonal lines, but sometimes it'll make the image blurrier. Sometimes it'll cut the resolution in half. Sometimes it'll make the lines look less crisp. And like we can see over here, when deinterlacing is off, these letters look pretty good. Executive producers look good. When I turn it on, it kind of looks worse. Certain parts, it's weird. You get rid of the lines. Now, of course, a freeze frame is actually a bad way to test it. So, to really give it an honest test, we have to do A/B repeat. Okay, let's see if we can see anything here. Okay, deinterlacing is on, off. I know what I'm going to do. I want to keep it on those letters for a second because those letters were kind of revealing something that... Okay, epileptic warning. Hey, what's up, Whooper Trooper? So I'll explain what I'm doing here real quick. So I have this DVD rip of the weird sci-fi series, Lex, the Canadian science fiction series. And what happened was there was 3 versions of them. There was a $300 version, which I didn't want to buy. There was a $40 version that was known to have bad quality. And my bootleg copy that I originally downloaded was atrocious. So I was willing to buy it to get a better quality copy. But when I got the DVD copy, it was severely interlaced. These horizontal lines you get, these combing artifacts that you see across the screen, usually they blend away on an old TV or on a quality DVD player. They'll get filtered out. But even then, when you're deinterlacing, it will effectively cut the resolution in half. And this is a terrible frame to probably demonstrate that on. So I'm going to try to... Yeah, this is good. So where it says Michael McManus, when I turn the filter on, the letters look a little different, and when I turn the filter off, they look a little sharper. So I'm going to do a quick A-B repeat on Michael's name so that we don't get epileptic seizures. Xenia Seberg. Oh, she was beautiful. Okay, good. So there's Michael's name. In fact, I should probably make it not fade. And then I'm going to go over how I fixed this. Whoops. Whoop. Good. Okay, so now let's observe Michael McManus's name. The filter is off. The filter is on. Actually, so it doesn't look radically different with the filter on or off. Holy crap. Fantasy football lottery. I did not know they combined the New York lottery with fantasy football. No, I'm messing around. That is way out of my wheelhouse, but I hear it's a highly strategic thing. And I do wish you luck on your gambling. I mean, fantasy football. So this is exactly how bizarre this show is. They have a space station. In fact, that's a courthouse. Wait, is that a courthouse? I think that's the court. Wait. Or is that the sex palace? Well, it looks like a whorehouse. That looks like a brothel. It looks like a space brothel. I forgot which it is. So if we turn off the interlacing and I pause it at the right time, we get these horizontal lines. So they may be hard to see here unless you're in full screen mode, but the horizontal lines are all up and all over this. And it happens when things are moving horizontally, when someone waves their hands rapidly. And this says it's 30 frames a second, but it's actually 30 fields a second. So there's actually, or like, there's two sets of lines. And so there is a way to re-encode this to get 60 frames a second out of it. And that's what we're going to go over. Now, if I turn the filter back on real quick, a freeze frame is not a fair representation. But we can see that with the deinterlacing filter on, it does okay. You get this weird flickeriness going on the metal, you know, shiny metal bits, but it's not bad. It's like, okay, it's progress, you know? Problem is there's like multiple deinterlacing filters, and they're not all created equal. Some of these, for example, there's one called discard, and discard will literally discard half of the lines, thereby reducing the resolution in half. Well, basically, you know, different frame rates. A higher frame rate would be like, you know, 30 frames a second versus 60. So 60 will, you know, be buttery smooth, or the image will look smoother. Every TV is capable of between 30 and 60. In the 90s, a lot of TV shows were done at 24 or 30 frames a second. A lot of movies are done at 24 frames a second. And that's totally cool, you know, but 60 frames is like what my webcam is running at right now. This is like a, you know, 60 frame a second frame rate, which usually looks real smooth, unless you know, usually like YouTube will have settings to lower the quality depending on if you're on the internet or if you're on cellular data. But when you change the quality setting on my videos, you'll see like 720p and 1080p at 60 frames a second, and that's basically due to the frame rate setting I'm using in my case in OBS, or in the case of my camera, these two cameras are capable of 60 frames a second. Some cameras, like my previous camera, my previous 1080p camera a while ago, was not able to do 60 frames. Now, this adds a dimension of complexity when we're talking about this TV show, because things that were made for broadcast for regular low definition TV had every frame broken up into fields, and fields were like little horizontal lines. So it's like, imagine if like you have like my head is made up of one line here and another line here and another line here, and in between every line there's a gap. And that's because instead of, like, you know, frames are like a flip book. Normally a full frame, like on a movie or, you know, a piece of film, a motion picture camera. I think I might even have an illustrative piece of film in my drawer. All right. I can't find, wait, is that, yeah, there we go. So, you know, in the motion picture industry, if this was a movie, there would be like a big roll of film in a film camera. In fact, they would be using something like this, 35 millimeter. And they would be running it through the camera at 24 frames a second. So each of these like segments that are separated, you'd have 24 of those going in front of the lens every second. And then when you play it back at the same speed on a projector, it looks like it's moving. It's basically like a flip book. In fact, that's pretty much what we're doing when we're making, you know, motion picture. We're making the film act like a flip book. But the problem is when they invented TV, they had to figure something else out. And what they figured out was something vastly more insane, where they basically, you know, made it into scan lines and broke the entire frames in half into a set of line A and groups of lines. You have a group of lines called Group A, Group B, and it would constantly flip between each group. Like it would go and take away this group of lines, put new lines in from the next frame, take away these lines, put in another group of lines for the next frame. It was very bizarre, but that's basically why when I turn off deinterlacing, we get these ugly horizontal lines, these combing artifacts. This is why if you digitize VHS tape, you will see these horizontal lines when you hook up a VCR to a computer. Unless you have like an adapter that makes the lines go away automatically, which I have one, but because it does it automatically, it doesn't do it the way I like it. It tends to make, you know, blur the edges. So you'll get rid of the ugly horizontal lines, which is good. But you'll also lose a little bit of detail in other parts of the image. So, for example, the stars in the background. When I turn on the filter, some of the stars become like a little bit less bright. And I'm being really OCD about it. But basically, this source quality is already bad enough that anything else that puts it at a disadvantage is just bad. So, how did I make it better? Well, I do have a better copy here. So now let's go and find the better copy, which should be right over, yeah, here we go. Wait, this mother effer, I did 2 different versions and it only did 1. Okay, that's okay. Well, we got 1 version here. All right, I'll run the second one tomorrow. So now this one here, in fact, I should queue up both videos, right? Because this is gonna be like a direct comparison now. Or I could put them side by side maybe. Well, let's just do this. Okay, so same video player, right? Yeah, it looks like a bug. It's very bizarre. Okay, so this is the one I did where I took the 30 frames a second and deinterlaced it. Took away the horizontal lines and was able to make it 60 frames a second. So it looks a little better now. You know, it like moves a little more smoothly, almost like, you know, I don't know, crisp CGI. And then if we go back to the original, well, okay, that don't look right. That don't look right. All right, that's just weird. Let's try to get what the fudge happened there. Okay, that was weird. Well, it does not like playing that video file right after it. For some reason, VLC Media Player does not like playing this file and this file back to back. So I'm going to open up 2 copies of VLC. Apparently, that's what it wants me to do, and that's what I'm going to do. Okay. So now let's turn off the interlacing. He is the Lex. He is the most powerful weapon of destruction in the universe. Okay, so this is the original one. No deinterlacing filter applied. Now I'll turn on the filter just to see that it looks not much different. Maybe it looks a little better. Now we're going to Alt-Tab and we're going to do this one here. No filter because there doesn't need to be a filter. And it looks buttery smooth. Yeah, something was very wrong with that one. Okay. I probably shouldn't be repeating the audio like that because you drive a person insane. Okay, so buttery smooth. Then we're going to Alt-Tab back to this one. Whoops. Okay, I broke that. It could just be like something with, you know, hard drives and the way that, you know, you get delay or latency between one thing and the other. It could be that I'm running a video encoder in OBS. It could be that this came straight from a DVD and I ripped it straight in. Still, I don't understand why it's doing that. It's kind of annoying because it's, you know, ruining my side-by-side comparison. But okay, so we got this one here. It looks okay, but we get these horizontal lines. We turn on the filter, we get this weird flickering motion. It still flickers and sputters a bit. Now we're going to go back to this one more time. No filter, buttery smooth, no flickering or sputtering. That is the key. So it looks qualitatively better than the last one I showed. Now, how did we get to that? Well, basically, I took one of these files and I put it into this video encoder application. This is called Hybrid. And it's an alternative to Handbrake. Handbrake is a popular video encoder. If you ever have to edit a video and your video editing program doesn't want to open up a file, Handbrake is definitely a quick and easy way to take an existing file that you can't put on, you know, editing program. I also, you know, I use this. I also have my dad use this when he's doing something and he wants to, like, let's say, because I don't usually use StreamYard like that, but some people, they need to put a video on StreamYard. StreamYard requires MP4. So if I have a video that's not MP4, I can bring it into this application, tell it to take my source material and convert it to whatever format, like H.264 as an MP4. It will try to save it as a .m4v file, but you can always change the file format to .mp4 by typing it by hand. And that, you know, inherently makes it compatible with StreamYard. Makes it that now you can roll the video into StreamYard that previously didn't work on StreamYard. It also enables you to take these 2 GB video files, because these episodes are 2 GB a pop, and make them, you know, a more sane size. Something like, let's see how, I don't even know how big they are now. Okay, so I only saved like 700 megabytes, 800 megabytes. Could I do better? Yeah, I could definitely do better than 1.1. 47 minutes. So that'd be about, you know, yeah, like 1.2 gigs, about 1.3 gigs for like a whole hour. I'm not going to do the math right now. There are just many ways. So now if you're using Handbrake, which a lot of people prefer because it's easy, you would basically just read the tool tips. As you float your mouse pointer around, it tells you what everything does. So this is telling it that when you take your original video, this 2 GB 40-minute show, this is going to make it into a smaller file. And this tells me that if I make the number higher, it'll give you lower quality and a smaller file. And it tells me not to make the number any lower than 18. And that 18 is probably overkill, but that's what I did. 20 would probably be fine. For high definition video, it tells you to use 22. But basically, the higher number, the lower the quality. And basically, it tells you what the best setting is, depending on if you're using low def or high definition content. So in this program, I did the same thing. This program has a much more complex interface, but basically, it says constant rate factor or constant quantizer. And basically, I pick 18. And that's the equivalent of picking 18 on the constant quality meter over here. Over here, also, we have like the audio tracks. And since I didn't actually put a video into Handbrake, now it shows the audio tracks. And in Handbrake, you can say, take the audio track that came with my DVD bootleg, which is apparently AC3 at 192K per second, and convert it to AAC, or convert it to nothing, just do pass-through, or make it an MP3 track. So basically, you have a video with an MP3 track. If there's any subtitles, it'll look for, you know, tracks where it'll automatically add subtitles whenever there's a foreign language. Or if, let's say, Japanese anime, you might decide to, like, make sure that you add audio tracks, or that you force the audio tracks, or that you make them an option, or that you say, for Japanese anime, maybe this is the English audio track, you know, not audio, subtitle track. And this being a DVD actually has chapters, but a lot of times I automatically uncheck this because, you know, usually a lot of bootleg movies I'm converting don't. So bottom line, we go from having a 1 gig file, 2 gig file, to having something much, much, much smaller. And if I use the NVIDIA video encoder, it's going to give me lower quality for the same file size, but it'll go much quicker. And so sometimes I do that. Sometimes I will do NVIDIA video encoder, and just for kicks we're going to do an experimental encode at like a really high speed, and it's probably not going to go that fast because I'm running OBS right now, and OBS is tying up my video encoder. 700 and something, 800 frames a second. So the minute I told OBS to stop recording, it bumped it up to like 800 frames a second. And either way, I could let this run, or I could let it not run, you know. But now, while that's running, let's go to this program here. And so I dragged and dropped my video file. So let's do episode 3. It's going to say what video codec or encoder I want to use, and X264 is the standard du jour, basically. Although if it was a really high quality Blu-ray, you would probably do X265. I'm going to stick with MKV because MKV is a perfectly respectable container format, meaning that even though the video is an MP4, MKV is sort of like the file is wrapped around both the video tracks and the audio tracks. This is what contains, allows us to have, separate tracks. And many years ago, MKV, the first time I used MKV was when I was downloading episodes of Gundam Seed back in like 2004, because it enabled us to have subtitles, to be able to turn the subtitles on and off. Before MKV, the subtitles would be baked into the video. You couldn't turn them off. They were part of the video, and sometimes, they would get blurry depending on the quality of the video. And when you have separate subtitle tracks, it's basically the equivalent of having a text file. So it takes up like almost no memory anyway. And they come up crystal clear, super sharp, resizable fonts. You could change the settings on the subtitles and make the font larger depending on what application you're using. So that was some of the advantages that we got from being able to use MKV. Now, remember, over here it says the source material is MPEG 2, because that is a DVD. And can I blow that up? Here we go. I'm going to blow that up just so you can see. So over here on the right, it says MPEG 2. That's because every DVD is MPEG 2. It's an old format. They use it for over-the-air broadcast TV. The bitrate is 5,200 kilobits a second. Now, this is a little tricky because you can't directly compare 5,000 kilobits a second in MPEG 2 to 5,000 kilobits a second in MPEG 4. They're not going to be the same, unfortunately. So it's not going to be like an apples to apples conversion. But the resolution, that is helpful. So this is saying 720 by 480. Now, I want to say it's 720 by 480p. Hey, where did my head go? Oh, I see. I hid myself. But it's not 720 by 480p because... There I am. Because we just saw those horizontal lines. The image is interlaced. It is not 480p. It is 480i. That's literally those horizontal lines. Remember when you look at your cable box and you look at the settings and it says 480p, 480i, or 1080p, or 1080i? Well, 1080i is when you see those horizontal lines that we just saw now. Except that it's usually not noticeable because the lines are so fine. So yeah, from there, basically we got all of the stats there. This is like something that gives us an idea. The audio track, 192 kilobits a second, just like what Handbrake said. Handbrake told us that the audio track was 192K, 48 kilohertz, and we can click a button here to see like a very detailed breakdown if we really want to. Now, how do we fix the thing? Oh yeah, and Whooper Trooper, to answer your question, because I didn't answer your question before, this show came out in the late 90s and early 2000s. I think it was like literally at the cusp of the HD age. And yeah, so that was that. And I would say that fantasy football does look like it's skills based to some extent. Even though I had a friend who was a degenerate gambler, he was also kind of the exception when it comes to being a real degenerate. It also took genuine skill for what he did and what others in his crowd did. Dynasty League. I did not know that. I did not know what a Dynasty League is. So bottom line is we now have a choice to pick the audio encoder. Yeah, I'd imagine there's definitely a luck draw in there too. Now, before I was going to tell it to take the audio and convert it to a different format. And in that case, I would just tell it to add the audio tracks. But I decided to do pass-through, which might be why my video file was big. It probably has a large audio track in there. And so had I kept the audio track in there, I would go to this tab and I would tell it to take the audio track, take it from whatever format the DVD had on it, and convert it to something that gives us a smaller file. Some people can tolerate a lower bit rate without hearing a loss in quality, and that will definitely save them a lot of, a significant amount of storage. Me, I'll usually, crank it up a bit because I don't mind using up a little bit more storage if I get better quality. However, I took it a step further. Instead of taking the original audio track and, converting it to a more efficient format, I decided to just keep the original audio track. And I did that for two reasons: to make the encoder run quicker, and also because I wanted to just leave the audio alone until I had time to explore, comparisons. Now, video quality. So we know we were using an X264 for the video encoder. And we have so many other options. We have Xvid, which is ancient. I think somewhere in here there's an NVIDIA encoder. Yeah, here we are, NVIDIA encoder. This is the one you might use if you wanted to convert a file before a live. Let's say you had a live stream in like 10 minutes and you want to convert a movie so that you could put it in an editing program. Like you had a movie that you couldn't put in your editing program, but you wanted to make a clip like 10, 20 minutes before a stream, and you needed to convert it to a different format. I would use the NVIDIA encoder because that would go crazy fast. And then, I would just go and, put it in my editing program and get it ready for the stream. But anyway, right now we're going to do X264. So we go to X264 tab. By default, it would say specific file size or specific bit rate. So you would literally put in a number like 1500 kilobits per second. Or, something like that. I got to shrink this. There we go. Okay. So, originally it was set to one of these settings. It would say 2-pass encoding or something like that. And it would basically try to keep the bit rate down to this. And what I mean by bit rate is when you play the movie, every frame, every second of audio, it's going to account for like a certain amount of data being, transferred every second. And this one here has like a little graph here. And it basically says that this is supposedly like, that's not accurate. Okay, it's a variable bit rate. It's saying like about 6,000 kilobits a second, 5,000, 4,000. It's kind of bobbing up and down between like 4 and 10,000 kilobits a second. I may have given it a overly, excessively high setting. And so I may be able to get the same quality while targeting a lower bit rate. And it is using such a high bit rate right now. See, even the quality don't even look that good in certain areas. So this is what I was like, what people were talking about when they said that the quality on this version was the worst out of all of the versions of this show. There's just certain scenes that were mastered poorly. Maybe the process of, transferring the film negatives to videotape. Maybe they didn't even do that. Maybe they took it straight from videotape. Because normally they film TV shows on film. Then they do the CGI and they combine them on a videotape together before they send it to the studios or before they send it to the TV stations. Or TV networks. And on certain times that when they make a DVD version of a TV show, they can either take the or if they do a remaster, they can take the film negatives and rescan them. And that's what they did when they remastered Babylon 5 recently. Or they could just like take the existing videotapes and blow them up and make them fit on a DVD screen. And that's usually when, like, if you look at the DVD version of Babylon 5, the widescreen quality in certain scenes is atrocious, especially in particular in scenes when they have visual effects. In fact, actually, I stand corrected. Some of the widescreen shots looked pretty good on the DVD box set, but there were a lot of sketchy bits. But yeah, that's a little blurry, you know. And yeah, that was Xenia Seberg, and they had this other beautiful woman in season 1 who played the same character basically, and she was hot. And they had this weird robot named 790, and he's like a weirdo.
And I have no motivation to assist you in your joyless quest for sexual relief.
Zev, being around you, it's not easy. I suffer, I hurt. I've got feelings too. I know you have no interest in me, but I would think because
This
of the
guy plays
extra
like
sexual
the
drive
most
you've got from your
sleazy
love
guy
slave
ever,
transformation,
but he's
that
like
you,
the everyman.
more than
He's very
anyone,
real.
would understand my situation.
If you killed him, he'd stop talking.
So he stumbles into a space
The
brothel.
women on the Cellies pleasure transport can give me what I need. They're really good.
He stumbles into a space brothel, and he's like, look, I'm on a ship with your hot ass.
Wouldn't they want?
And he's like saying to her, I want to go to a brothel.
Traders, you just give them something valuable and it's bingo bongo yum yum time.
Bingo, bongo, dum-dum time.
Any menu board?
As if that were of any interest.
Oh.
And then that lady, she had like basically been turned into a domestic servant, but while being converted into a servant, she was given the sex drive, like the ultimate sex drive, except she's attracted to everyone except for Stanley Tweedle, the guy in the red hat. So anyway, getting back on topic here. So bottom line here, getting back to academics. So I chose one of these two options, constant rate factor and constant quantizer. And this would be the one that I used in the other video encoder earlier. And this is the one that we used in the sample I did before. And really not a big difference between the two. They both achieved the same thing, but by different means. And so once we have that, there's one key thing. So I didn't even cover the main thing. So assuming you set everything else, you know, you get your video file, you drag and drop it into here. You pick your video encoder. You pick the output format, whether you want MP4 or MKV. You tell it what to do with the audio. In my case, I did pass through, but normally I would convert it to AAC by clicking Auto Add. And then I would go to the Audio tab. So when you click Auto Add, you get an Audio tab. And you tell it to use AAC and whatever bitrate you want. I would choose 192 unless there was reason not to. In my case, I'm keeping the original audio track untouched. From there, we pick our video parameters, you know, constant rate factor, and we pick 18 or 20. This time, I'm going to pick 20 because I don't think that I'm going to lose any quality by lowering the quality. A higher number means lower quality in this case, and I really don't think I'm going to lose any quality by doing that. And over here, it'll usually give you some tips on what everything does. But sometimes, like there we go, if I float my mouse, I say, the quantization factor specifies the average rate factor that should be used during an average rate factor. One pass encoding mode. It ranges from 1 minimum rate to 51 maximum rate, where 1 is the lowest okay, just English. 1 is the lowest and keeps the most, okay, a setting of 1 keeps the most detail but produces the largest file. 51, on the other hand, retains the least amount of detail but delivers the best compression. So in other words, the higher the number, the smaller the file will be, but the crappier the quality. And according to like some of the guidelines I read, the general guideline is that most people aim at an average between 16 and 22. And that's when doing personal backups. This only specifies the average quantizer. Depending on the other settings, the quantizer might vary quite a bit. Default 18, max 51. So 20 is probably a perfectly sound setting, especially considering the imperfect nature of our source material and our desire to get a smaller file than we already have. And then we already talked about audio. We need to go to filtering. So yeah, filtering. So this is the part where the magic happens. This is the part where the magic happens, where we get rid of those ugly horizontal lines, where we get rid of the combing artifacts, where we deinterlace the video. It literally says right here, deinterlace / telecine. And telecine, I'm not going to get into that topic right now. And so once you've, you know, took your video file, picked your encoder, picked MP4 or MKV, gave it a file name, told it what to do with the audio track, made decisions on whether or not you want to do anything with these subtitle tracks. In this case, I didn't do anything about it, but if I really wanted to, I could investigate that. And then you go to filtering and you go to deinterlace. Now, it already says it scanned the file and it says that there's a bottom field in here. So the bottom line is this video is interlaced. If it was not interlaced content, it would tell us that it was not interlaced. And so how do we deinterlace it? How do we get rid of those ugly lines? Well, we pick very slow on the preset. We pick Bob if we want 60 frames a second. We pick no Bob if we want 30 frames a second. And when we're all said and done, we hit add to the queue. We go to the jobs. It comes up at the bottom here. We tell it to start. And about 10 to 40 minutes later, you'll have a video outputted of a smaller size that doesn't have ugly horizontal lines. And with that, I thank you for tuning in, Mr. Whooper Trooper. And yeah, please like and subscribe. I'll leave a link to your channel on the video below. Let's see, go to channel. Yeah, I got it right here. I click on go to channel. Then I gotta look for the little share button. Did YouTube change the UI recently? Because they don't have a little share button in the corner where I expected. Well, I'm gonna put it up over here. So there it is right there. Link to Whooper Trooper's channel. Thank you for dropping in. For anybody who's dropping in now, I just did a quick rundown. Well, I did a long-winded rundown. Then I did a quick rundown. Basically, I had some video footage from a TV show called Lex, where we get these ugly horizontal lines. This is straight from the DVD rip. And when we play it back, you're going to see these ugly horizontal lines appear at key moments.
In the two universes, powerful weapon of
And sometimes if I turn the filter on and off, we can flick them in and out.
destruction in the two universes.
Sometimes we have to go like this. Right here, you see these horizontal lines throughout the screen. When I turn the filter on, they go away. But the problem with the deinterlacing filter that gets rid of these lines is that it does make the image blurrier. And so what we did was we took that file, we put it into this application here. We told it to apply some compression and outputted it like that. You know, we created this file. In fact, I didn't do it just now because I'm going to wait till I'm at work tomorrow because my computer is going to be running the fan real loud. And I want to be able to sleep tonight, even though I sound energetic as F. And yeah, so tomorrow at work, I will then go through the list, add additional files to the list. I have episodes of Sequest DSV that I need to re-encode too that I recently picked up. And you know, it's like if I buy something, if I like something, even after I bootleg it, if I like it, I'm gonna buy it, you know. And then right after I buy it on a Blu-ray disc, I'm gonna rip it, but I'm not going to share it. You know, I'm gonna keep my copy. I'm gonna put it in my own personal library. You know, it's not gonna be shared. But it is something that's how I handle, you know, content that I truly like. And so if I want to, you know, rip a movie, how would I do that? Well, I have a Blu-ray disc in my Windows 8 computer right now in another room. And what we're going to do is we're going to just tell handbrake. And what you're looking at here is an application called Make MKV. So I'm just going to haphazardly resize this real quick so that you can see the entire window. And so what we did was we put a DVD or Blu-ray disc. In my case, I put a Blu-ray disc in my other computer. And then, you know, it says it's got one drive there. We go to settings. We can tell it what folder to put it in. Generally, it's not that big of a deal. Like once the folder is selected, you're good. But in my case, I have the name of the show. Basically, it's Sequest this season 1 disc 1. And it's going to take the every episode of that show from the Blu-ray disc and put it in a folder. And at the beginning, I think it scans the disc. Then it's going to prompt me. It's going to say, what would you like to do? In this case, it looks like it's going to go straight to ripping it. Well, you see what it's doing. It's decrypted. It parses the titles because it doesn't know what's on the disc until it does the decryption. So it doesn't even know that there were like 6 episodes or 6 videos on this Blu-ray disc until it did this beginning step right here. And so after this step, I will be able to then specify options for ripping the movie. There it is. There it is. And then we just hit this here because all of these, I want all of these titles. These are like probably deleted scenes. This is a 2-part episode probably at the very end. Or it's a special feature like the making of Sequest or something like that. So I'll label them later on. Right now, I just want to rip them, get them onto the disc, and I'll figure out what's what later. Like this here is episode 1. This is probably a 2-part episode right over here. We have a subtitle track. We have an audio track. We have a video track. And you can see the audio is DTS HD and DTS stereo. I remember when I was doing the re-encoding, there was some weird intricacies like why they have these 2 different formats, and I forgot what there was, but there was a reason why there were 2 audio tracks on every disc. And basically, I think it was about compatibility anyway, but all of these MP4s, all of these Blu-ray discs are, they do contain MP4 footage or MPEG-4 files, MPEG-4 codec or encoded footage basically. And so this program is just going to create a folder. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, so this program is telling me that this folder already existed, and it doesn't. It does not exist. So I'm just going to create a new folder name to be darned sure that it doesn't yell at me. Total size is blah, 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 while you only have this much space left. Is that true? Well, I better go and free up some space here. Okay, we probably have enough space now. I'm just going to rename the folder. There we go. Now it ripped it. So basically it said I had too much junk on the computer and I had to delete some of it. So I've deleted some content and now we're good to go. And so, yeah, this is, footage that I'll also run through a video encoder to get the file size smaller. But it won't be like the same as before. Whereas before I had to deal with like this low quality footage from the TV show Lex. I don't have to deal with that here. The footage is already, gonna be the quality it is. It's not gonna be like not really anywhere I can make it much better or much worse. So anyway, with the bad quality DVD, we had to run it through the deinterlacing filter. With the Blu-ray show, it doesn't really matter which encoder I use. I mean, this won't give me more control. Whoops, I gotta close that. This video encoder will definitely give me more control over the details. There's definitely many ways I can mess it up. Whereas the other encoder will make it pretty easy. In either case, we're going to take our DVD source content and we're going to get a smaller file while retaining the quality. And that is the key goal and objective there. And with that, I think that covers everything. So today we took care of, going over the Xbox procedure. So, Wednesday, Thursday, I'll have a hard drive in my Xbox that has like a crap ton of games and it'll be ready for me to load more games onto it. I'm really looking forward to that. And then I can kick back and really, have an even better Xbox mod than I have already. And with that, I thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave a comment. And please check out my friend Whooper Trooper's YouTube channel. And for now, we shall end transmission.